Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from Iyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines.
And City Bomb local government area.
President Tinubu writes Senate seeks confirmation of NEDC board members. Akwa Ibom Plus, North Korea silent about its apparent detention of the U.S. soldier who crossed border. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Tonight is a report that President Bola Tinubu has written to the Senate to seek confirmation of some members of the governing boards of the Northeast Development Commission. The President's letter was read on the floor of the plenary today by the Senate President Gambo Maikwao, member Northeast Taraba, Abdullahi Abbas, member Northwest Kano, Zaf Stephen Odara, member North Central Benue, Matul Lawal Are, member Southwest Lagos. Others are Sanwali Fayi Oginibo, member Southeast Abia, Frank Akinike Owo, member South Rivers, Mohammed Ogoni Al-Khali, Managing Director Northeast Borno, Abdul Salam Yahaya, Executive Director of Operations Northeast Gambia, and Dr. Bubakar Garba Ile, Executive Director of Admin and Finance Northeast Yobe. Transfer to 12 million of the poorest households in the country for 6 months in a bid to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. A President's Special Advisor on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Dele Alake, in a statement noted that the cash program was not the only item in the relief package initiated by Tinubu, stressing that the President has directed that the conditional cash transfer program envisaged to bring succor to more vulnerable households be reviewed immediately. According to him, the of fertilizers and grains to approximately 50 million farmers and households respectively in all the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has said that the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is fully equipped to combat terrorism purpose. Tinubu said this after a Troika Plus meeting at the Aso Rock Villa with Presidents Patrice Talon of Benin Republic, Umaru Embalo of Guinea-Bissau, Mohamed Bazoum of Niger Republic, and President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Touray, yesterday. West African leaders added that he has confidence in ECOWAS' financial planning and engineering capabilities to secure the necessary resources to tackle terrorism and insecurity. Away from that, the federal government, through the Federal Competition and across the country, Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Babatunde Irukera confirmed the Eastern Easement today. According to him, the order would be issued in a couple of hours. He noted that following its first advisory to the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, which was ignored, it is now ready for more definite enforcement. Meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace says it will collaborate with the United States on direct flight to Houston, Texas. A Permanent Secretary, Dr. Emmanuel Maribole, made the promise during a visit to the ministry by a delegation from the United States led by the Mayor of Houston, Texas, Sylvester Turner, in Abuja. The ministry promised the U.S. delegation that the federal government of Nigeria would work on its request for a direct flight from Nigeria to Houston, a consulate office in Houston, and expand bilateral relations with the government of America. According to a statement by a spokesperson for the ministry, Odutaya Oluseyi, all modalities required for the bilateral air services agreement (BASA) between Nigeria and the U.S. for the direct flight to Texas would commence as soon as new ministers are appointed and deployed in Nigeria. To the red chambers now, where the Senate has reached a resolution to abolish age limitations in job advertisement. A senator representing Benue South Senatorial District, Patrick Abamaro, sponsored the motion on the floor of the Senate. He said such discrimination is in contrary to the attention of senators to the provisions of the International Labour Organization (ILO) that prohibit age placement in the advertisement of job opportunities, adding that discrimination by age bracket has denied lots of potential that would have contributed positively to the world economy, insisting that Nigeria cannot be different. The lawmakers stressed that at age 30, Nigerians can still serve in the National Youth Service Corps, describing it as ironic that some establishments consider people over 30 unemployable, a development he said is a clear breach of applicants' fundamental human rights. He called on the Federal Ministry of Labour, Employment and Productivity to draw policies that would enthrone equality immediately. After debates on the motion at the plenary presided over by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, the Senate adopted a resolution calling on the Labour Ministry to redraft policies abolishing age limitation in job advertisement. Father Honsi to investigate the abuse of firearms by officials of the Nigeria Customs Service in Katsina State and at border communities in the country. The committee would probe the incidents in Katsina, including the alleged killings of residents by custom officials during border drills in August 2021. The killing of 10 persons also by custom officials in February 2021 in the Jibia local government area of the state, and the attack on the Chief of Staff to the Katsina State Governor, Jabiru Swari, on July 13, 2023. The Senate's decision to investigate the attacks by customs officials followed the presentation of a matter of urgent public importance by Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua during today's plenary session. After the probe, the ad hoc committee would profess the Abuja and Kano airports until it concludes its investigations. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has also cautioned security agencies to desist further from destroying vessels containing stolen crude oil, saying their practice is having a negative impact on the environment. This followed the adoption of a motion on the need to discourage the destruction of vessels laden with stolen crude oil with a view to curbing environmental pollution in the Niger Delta region, moved by Thomas Ereyitomi. Ereyitomi in the motion told the House that there have been reports of interception, arrest and subsequent destruction of vessels laden with stolen crude oil in the Niger Delta area in recent times. He cited a vessel, Mantura II, which he claimed was destroyed in the Excravos River in Warri's southwest local government area of Delta State. The House, however, mandated its Committee on Environment, when constituted, to ensure strict compliance against vessels' destructions. Elsewhere, the House of Representatives has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the circumstances leading to the increment of pump price of premium motor spirit (PMS) from 537 to 670 naira. The resolution was sequel to unanimous adoption of a motion by Ugo Chinyere Ike Agwonu, PDP Imo, at plenary today. Moving the motion earlier, Ike Agwonu said that Section 88, subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution empowers the National Assembly to conduct investigations into the activities of any authority executing or administering laws made by the National Assembly. The authority with the tasks of regulating and monitoring technical and commercial midstream and downstream petroleum operations in Nigeria. Increase in the pump price of petrol. Members voted against the amendment after Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu presided over plenary questioned if it was in the place of the House to take such a position, since pump price is controlled by the market forces. A member, Ugo Chinyere Ikenga, had moved a motion calling for investigation into the increases in the price of petrol since the removal of petrol subsidy. However, the House resolved to carry out an investigation to ascertain the veracity of the increases. In another development, the House also rejected a motion to set up an ad hoc committee to collate the views of lawmakers, civil society organizations, as well as the public, and amid uncertainties by Nigerians and indeed members of the House who question how the funds approved for. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has called on President Bola Tinubu to leave the embargo on employment. The House made the plea at the plenary today following the adoption of a motion moved by Francis Ejirogene Wabi. Moving the motion, the lawmaker said the immediate pause administration during the recession due to a huge drop in the international price of crude oil and the COVID-19 pandemic placed an embargo on employment in federal ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government. I recall that the Ninth House passed a resolution calling on the then president to lift the embargo on employment. We've noted that the reports on social media claimed that the embargo had been lifted, but there was no evidence of any employment taking place whatsoever. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has confirmed the appointment of the service chiefs recently appointed by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. The confirmation followed the adoption of the report of House ad hoc committee, which screened them. The service chiefs confirmed are Major General Christopher Musa and Air Vice Marshal Hassan Abubakar, Chief of Air Staff. Recall that the Green Chamber had on Monday commenced the screening of the service chiefs days after the Red Chambers confirmed the appointment of the military chiefs. The screening committee was led by the majority leader of the House, Julius Ihovere. So from the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to ask the Federal Character Commission (FCC) to make available details of appointments undertaken by federal ministries, departments, and agencies between 2015 and 2023, covering the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The resolution was made following the adoption of a motion on the need to compel the Federal Character Commission to diligently discharge its constitutional and statutory mandate and responsibility, moved by Paul Naji during the plenary. Namchi, who represents Izi Uzo and Enugu East Federal Constituency, noted that the FCC Act was enacted in 1995 and enshrining the 1999 Constitution the primary responsibility to promote, monitor, and enforce compliance with the principles of the equitable distribution of all bureaucratic, economic, media, and political positions across all tiers of government. According to him, no other constitution in Nigeria's history entrenched such regulatory body and vested same with powers to facilitate national integration through equitable, transparent, and unbiased sharing of national wealth and public official positions. A federal lawmaker lamented that 28 years after the enactment aimed at national cohesion and equal opportunities, and 24 years after its constitutional entrenchment, public perception is that there is an unchecked domination of bureaucratic, economic, media, and political positions by a section of the country to the detriment of others. The House, however, gave the committee 4 weeks to submit its report for further legislative actions. Moving now to the judiciary, where the Supreme Court of Nigeria has clarified that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJ, and Justice Olukayode Ariwola did not have a telephone conversation with President Bola Tinubu or anyone else on the ongoing presidential election petition on the 2023 election. The Apex Court said Justice Ariwola neither spoke with Tinubu nor the Director General of the Department of State Service, DSS, with a view to pressuring the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal on a likely judgment to give in respect of the petitions. The Apex Court's Director of Press and Information, Akande Festus, issued this in a statement in Abuja today. And while the suspended Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has asked the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos to admit him to bail on self-recognition, pending the hearing and determination of the charge filed against him by the federal government. The bail application, which was filed by his lead counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Joseph Daudu, was brought pursuant to the relevant provisions of the Constitution, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, and the inherent powers of the court. A suspended CBN governor also said that granting him bail would afford him adequate time and facilities to prepare his defense to the charge, referring to his reputation and past credible records as well as his status of being a former CBN governor. The defendant said he is not a flight risk and would not jump bail if it is granted. While promising to attend trials punctually, the defendant also indicated his willingness to provide responsible sureties as may be required by the court as a condition for the grant of bail. In another development, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has blamed myths, disinformation, and rumors as major contributing factors to poor. The county UNICEF field chief Rahama Farah stated this in his goodwill message added to the media dialogue on routine immunization and the zero-dose campaign held in Kano. He said although immunization has been the single most cost-effective and high-impact intervention protecting children against illness and death caused by vaccine-preventable diseases, its acceptability in some areas in the country needs to be enhanced. Farah urged media practitioners to create the demand for immunization and to raise awareness of the importance of immunization by providing accurate information to caregivers, families, and communities. He also charged traditional and religious leaders, community leaders, and civil society organizations to forge partnerships to eliminate the number of unimmunized children in Nigeria. Away from that, Katsina State's Governor Diko Rada has sent a list of 20 commissioner nominees to the state's House of Assembly for screening and confirmation. His media aide Mawada Damilam stated in Katsina today that the list contained the names of at least 3 varsity dons, 2 other academics, a lawyer, and other professionals. It also has a few female nominees. Back here, Kwabam State Governor Pastor Umoino today administered oath of office to Chairman and Vice Chairman of Nsaribam and the Ref-Wongoruko local government councils. Deaconess Otobon Sani Errand and Mboso Charles David were sworn in as Chairman and Vice for Nsaribam Local Government Council, while Oyosoro Okun, Oyosoro, and Arit Sunday Ambat took the oath of office as Chairman and Vice for Ref-Wongoruko Local Government Councils. Our correspondent has the details.
Kwabam State Governor Pastor Moino has sworn in Oyosoro Okon Oyosoro and Deaconess Otobong Sonny Aaron as Chairman of Ref-Wongoruko and Siribom Local Government Area respectively, with a charge on them to lead in a determined effort to bring development to the rural areas. Speaking during the swearing-in ceremony held at the State Banquet Hall, Government House, Uyo, Governor Ino, who congratulated them on the assumption of their new offices, restated that his administration is committed to transforming and deepening the growth of the rural areas. The governor further urged them to, as chief security officers of their various local government areas, work in that regard with relevant stakeholders and their people in ensuring that the peace currently being enjoyed is maintained in the state.
Let me, on behalf of the government and people of Akwa Ibom State, congratulate you all for the new responsibilities you have now assumed as the chairman and vice chairman of your respective local government councils. It is befitting that you are transitioning into an office and space of which you are all familiar with. This administration, in line with the core values and vision as encapsulated in our RISE agenda, is determined to transform and deepen growth and development in our rural areas as a strategic way of curbing rural-urban migration. As heads of your respective councils, you are expected to lead in our determined effort to bring development to our rural areas.
While reiterating the need for local government chairmen to reside in their various local government areas to give room for effective leadership and growth of their various areas. The governor further stressed that he will send an executive bill in that regard to the State Assembly.
People who must lead our local government must live in their respective local government. That's the bill I'm going to present. So if you are willing to contest to be local government chairman and you know you will not live in your local government, please don't do so. If you want to be a chairman of a local government, stay in your local government. We expect you to continue to work with your stakeholders, the youth, the women, elders, to ensure that the peace we have enjoyed in this state is maintained.
Meanwhile, in an interview with Government House correspondents, the newly sworn-in chairman of City Bomb local government area, Dekanezotobong Sonny Aaron, while appreciating God for the opportunity, pledged to serve and ensure that the people enjoy the dividends of democracy. In the meantime, also sworn in were Abrit Sunday Ambit as vice chairman of Urefongoruko local government area, and Bosowo Charles David as vice chairman for Sidibom local government area. In Uyo, Jane Uwa, Spectrum Television News.
And still to come in the news. Eurozone inflation at 17-month low, 5.5% in June. To stay with us.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories on how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Many thanks for staying with us. Move on to the rest of the news stories. In Africa, South Africa's ruling African National Congress ANC is reportedly hosting meetings with members of political parties from Brazil, Russia, India, China and others ahead of the BRICS summit on August 22nd in Johannesburg. Reports say the conflict in Ukraine remains one of the main topics of discussion. According to reports, it is not clear if Russian President Vladimir Putin will attend next month's summit of the BRICS emerging economies. South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile said in an interview that the country is trying to persuade Putin to stay away to avoid the legal and diplomatic fallout over his international arrest warrant. Meanwhile, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi granted a pardon today to researcher Patrick Zaki, a day after Zaki's 3-year jail term sparked an outcry from local rights groups and Western governments. His sentence on Tuesday for spreading false news had prompted some participants to walk out of a government dialogue aimed at giving the opposition a voice. Zaki, 32, was jailed over an article recounting the discrimination he and other members of Egypt's Coptic Christian minorities say they have suffered. The government's run Al-Aran newspaper said Sisi also granted a presidential pardon to Mohammed al-Bakr, the lawyer for Allah Abdel Fattah, Egypt's best-known political prisoner. Word of the pardon came after the U.S. State Department had said on Twitter it was concerned by Zaki's sentence and urged the immediate release of him and others unjustly detained. Meanwhile, Morocco top court has rejected the final appeals of two journalists, Omar Radi and Soleiman Rosseni, imprisoned on sexual assault charges they denied. Radi, 37, was handed a 6-year prison term and Rosseni, 51, a 5-year sentence in trials the defense lawyers labeled flawed. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch has accused Morocco of using criminal trials, especially for alleged sexual offenses, as techniques of repression to silence journalists and government critics. Authorities in the North African kingdom say the journalists were tried for common law crimes which have nothing to do with their profession of free speech. In the meantime, Namibian lawmakers have approved legislation to ban same-sex marriage and punish its supporters in what critics said was an unconstitutional attack on the LGBTQ community. The bill seeks to reverse a Supreme Court ruling that allowed for the recognition of some unions contracted abroad. The legislation sailed through the upper house of Parliament, encountering no opposition. The law redefines marriage as the union between persons of opposite sex and spouse as one half of a legal union between a genetically born man and genetically born woman. It says that same-sex marriage is contracted abroad and not to be recognized in the country. Elsewhere, Kenya has closed schools in the country's two main cities as a 3-day opposition protest started with demonstrators confronting police. Tear gas has been fired in the capital Nairobi and the coastal city of Mombasa at those protesting over the high cost of living. Reports say many businesses have remained shut over fears of looting, with people scared of getting caught in violent clashes. Last week, at least 14 people died in protests and 10 were shot dead by police. Meanwhile, human rights organizations have strongly criticized the police for what they call the excessive use of force last Wednesday. More than 50 children were admitted to hospital after tear gas was fired into their classroom in Nairobi. The opposition called for a series of protests after tax hikes were introduced last month by the government of President William Ruto. Away from that, Chinese President Xi Jinping has hailed China's relationship with Algeria in a meeting in the capital Beijing with his Algerian counterpart, Abdelmajid Tebboune. Xi Jinping said China and Algeria for 65 years have shared weal and woe, helped each other, and the friendship between the two countries has been strengthened over time. Reports say the meeting takes place a month before the BRICS summit in South Africa. According to reports, since 2014, Algeria and China have been strategic partners and have pledged to expand their cooperation in the economy, trade, energy, space, and health. On the foreign scene, Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attend a BRICS nation summit in South Africa next month. The country's presidency today, ending months of speculation he could be detained. Putin's potential visit has been a thorny diplomatic issue for Pretoria. The Russian leader is the target of an International Criminal Court arrest warrant, a provision that South Africa, as an ICC member, would be expected to implement if he were to set foot in the country. According to reports, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will instead represent Russia South Africa. He is the current chair of the BRICS group, a gathering of heavyweights that also includes Brazil, Russia, India and China, and which sees itself as a counterweight to Western economic domination. Meanwhile, Putin was formally invited to a BRICS summit due to take place in Johannesburg between August 22nd and 24th, but Pretoria has been under heavy domestic and international pressure not to host him. So on the foreign scene, North Korea was silent about the highly unusual entry of an American soldier across the Korea's heavily fortified border, although it has fired short-range missiles today in its latest weapons display. Nearly a day after the soldier bolted into North Korea during a tour in the border village of Panmunjom, there was no word in the fate of Private Second-Class Travis King, the first known American detained in the North in nearly 5 years. According to reports, the North's missile launches today were seen as a protest of the deployment of a U.S. nuclear-armed submarine in South Korea the previous day and were not likely related to King's border crossing. King, 23, was a cavalry scout with the 1st Armored Division who had served nearly 2 months in a South Korean prison for assault. He was released on July 10th and was being sent home Monday to Fort Bliss, Texas, where he could have faced additional military discipline and discharged from the service. Meanwhile, Thailand's parliament today refused to allow progressive challenger Peter Limjaroenrat to be given a second bailout for the prime ministership. The House Speaker said that Peter cannot be nominated twice in the parliamentary session. Earlier today, Thailand's Constitutional Court suspended reformist Limjaroenrat in another blow to his hopes of becoming the nation's next leader after a stunning election win. Reports say Peter's Move Forward Party, MFP, won the most seats in May polls thanks to young and urban thieves frustrated by nearly a decade of armed-backed rule, but its efforts to form a government have tumbled since the May polls. Meanwhile, the court issued a suspension just as Peter was sitting in Parliament for another day of deliberations on whether he could become Prime Minister after his first attempt fell dozens of votes short in a parliamentary sitting last week. Elsewhere, wildfires burned for a third day west of the Greek capital Athens today as authorities brace for a new heat wave stoking tinderbox conditions across the country. At first light, air-water bombers resume operations over the towns of Mandra, west of Athens, and Dothraki, close to the Corinth Canal, which separates mainland Greece from the Peloponnese. According to reports, Firefighters worked throughout the night to keep flames at bay and away from a complex of coastal refineries. Authorities said 4 aircraft sent from Italy and France today joined the efforts, and the fire brigade reported that a third fire had broken out on the island of Rhodes. Dozens of homes were gutted and hundreds forced to flee. Towering flames which seared through hamlets on Tuesday. Traffic was suspended for hours on 2 roads connecting the mainland to the Peloponnese. Still on the foreign scene, 2 senior members of Singapore's main opposition party have resigned over an affair. It was announced today in the third political scandal to rock the normally stained city-state in recent days. The announcement of the Workers' Party (WP) resignations came 2 days after the Speaker of Parliament and a woman member of Parliament from the ruling People's Action Party (PAP) also resigned for having an inappropriate relationship. According to the party chief, Pritam Sai, WP Member of Parliament Leon Perara, 53, and the party's youth-wing leader Nicole Say, 36, resigned after a video showing them holding hands was posted on social media. Both are married with children. The WP is the biggest opposition party in Parliament after making substantial inroads in 2020 elections. However, the PAP, which has ruled Singapore uninterrupted since 1959, still holds an overwhelming majority. Meanwhile, the Foreign Affairs Committee of the European Parliament has urged the International Criminal Court (ICC) to consider an arrest warrant for Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko over the country's role in the Ukraine war. The committee also called on the Belarusian administration to release all political prisoners and expressed concern over the country's subordination to Moscow. The EU lawmaker said Belarus is responsible for damage caused to and crimes committed in Ukraine, including through the government's role in the illegal transfer of children. Recall that the ICC in March issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russian officials Mario Belova for an alleged scheme to deport Ukrainian children to Russia. In the meantime, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that in attacking Odessa, Russia was deliberately targeting infrastructure associated with the Black Sea grain deal, following its decision to withdraw from the initiative on Monday. Zelensky noted that every Russian missile is a strike not only against Ukraine but against everyone in the world who wants a normal and safe life. This comes after Zelensky Chief of Staff Andrei Yermak said Russia's second night of attacks on Odessa shows Moscow needs hunger and problems in the countries of the global south. And elsewhere, security officials shot into the air and used fire hoses to disperse dozens of Afghan women protesting in Kabul today against an order by Taliban authorities to shut down beauty parlors, the latest curve to squeeze them out of public life. Since seizing power in August 2021, the Taliban government has barred girls and women from high schools and universities, banned them from parks, funfair and gyms, and ordered them to cover up in public. The order issued last month forces the closure of thousands of beauty parlors nationwide run by women, often the only source of income for households, and outlaws one of the few remaining opportunities for them to socialize anywhere from home. Recall that Afghan women staged a protest for their rights at a beauty salon in the Shah-e-Na area of Kabul on July 19, 2023. Meanwhile, Afghan's Taliban authorities have ordered beauty parlors across the country to shut within a month. The Vice Ministry confirmed the latest curve to squeeze women out of public life. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here's Blessing Dixon.
Thank you, Francis Adet. Good evening. It's business news. My name is Blessing Dixon. In the news, the consumer price inflation rate in Euro area was confirmed at 5.5% in June 2023, the lowest level since January 2022, mainly due to a decline in energy prices. However, the core rate, which excludes volatile items such as food and energy, picked up to 5.5%, remaining close at a peak of 5.7% and supporting the view that the European Central Bank policymakers are likely to continue raising rates in the upcoming months. Energy prices tumbled 5.6% in May, while prices rose at a softer pace for both food, alcohol, and tobacco and non-energy industrial goods. On a monthly basis, consumer prices advanced 0.3% in June. In Nigeria, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) has attributed the rise in petroleum pump prices in the country to market forces. The NNPCL Chief Group Executive Officer Mele Kyari, while speaking to journalists after a closed-door meeting, said, "With the deregulation of the oil sector, market realities will force the price of petrol up sometimes and at other times force it down." He explained that there's no supply issue as there are enough petroleum products for onward distribution across the country. Also speaking, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulation Authority, Farouk Ahmed, attributed the rise in the price to a global crude oil price increase. Still in Nigeria, following an 8-year legal battle with EcoBank Nigeria, Honeywell Flour Mills has been awarded 72.2 billion naira in damages by Justice Mohammed Liman of the Federal High Court, Lagos. Justice Liman, who presided over the case, granted the request of Honeywell Flour against EcoBank on Tuesday in the legal battle that started after the lender refused the manufacturer access to its account in 2015. Honeywell Flour accounts were frozen in November 2015 when EcoBank secured an ex parte order, which was granted on the condition that the financial institution will compensate the former for harm or loss caused by the action. EcoBank alleged Honeywell Group, former owner of Honeywell Flour, owes the company 13.5 billion naira as outstanding debt. The lender had also moved to block Oba Otodeco, Honeywell's group founder, from becoming the largest shareholder of First Bank of Nigeria Holdings in a bid to recover the alleged debt. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. At the end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the benchmark all-share index pared 9.49 basis points to close at 63,757.25 points. Compared with the previous trading day, today's data showed 46% decline in volume, 76% decline in turnover, and 17% decline in deals. The current market capitalization of the stock exchange is 34.7 trillion naira. 115 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 24 gainers and 27 losers. Honeywell Flour Mill led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 3 naira 63 kobo per share. On the losing side, Gerugu Power came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% at 315 naira per share. Jopol Gold and Ventures recorded the highest volume of 78 million traded shares. This is all on business news. Back to Francis Adet for the rest of the news.
Well, thank you, Blessing Dixon. Still to come in the news. Next, Janab Medvedev Downs team reaches maiden quarterfinal in G-State. To stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We move on with the rest of the news stories. It held the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) today in Lagos to cry the nefarious activities of drug hawkers nationwide, warning that any hawker arrested by the agency will be prosecuted and will face a jail term. Announcing this in Lagos during a sensitization workshop on dangers of drug hawking and ripening of fruits with carbide, the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Christina Adeyeye, said the agency's enforcement officers are currently carrying out synchronized nationwide operation. She maintained that no offender will be spared from facing the full wrath of the law. Represented by the Director of Chemical Evaluation and Research, Dr. Leonard Omopariola, said she explained that the menace of drug hawking poses a serious challenge to healthcare delivery system, hence the need to totally eradicate the illicit trade. Adeyeye explained that many drug hawkers are knowingly or unknowingly merchants of debt or expose essential and life-saving medicines to the vagaries of inclement weather, which degrade the activity and the active ingredients of the medicine and turn them into poisons, thus endangering human lives. We'll go now to Isaac for the latest sports stories. Hello, Isaac.
Well, thank you very much. In sport, tennis first. Serbian Hamad Medjedovic moved past former world number 3 Dominic Thiem 7-5, 2-6, 6-3 today at the EFG Swiss Open Gstaad to reach his maiden tour-level quarterfinal. The 20-year-old was aggressive throughout the 2-hour, 15-minute encounter, forcing Thiem into forehand errors with his weight and depth of shot at the ATP 250 clay court event. With his third tour-level win of the season, Medjedovic has climbed 2 spots to 8 in the ATP Live Race to Next Gen ATP. The Serbian, who is aiming to make his debut at the Next Gen ATP Finals, would next face 4th seed Yannick Hoffmann or Daniel Altmaier. Thiem has tasted success in Gstaad before, lifting a trophy in 2015. He leaves Switzerland holding an 8-16 record on the season, with his best result quarterfinal runs in Estoril and Munich. Well, back home, the 2023 National Youth Games, which Delta State is set to host, will hold from September 7th to 17th, the organizers have said. Speaking at the 7th National Youth Games Joint Technical Meeting in Asaba yesterday, Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Youth and Sports Development Alhaji Abubakar Ismaila commended Delta State for accepting to host the competition. Permanent Secretary, who was represented by Dr. Simon Egbojaye, said the future lies in the hands of the youth for a better country. Alhaji Ismaila, who is the chairman of the main organizing committee, MOC, appealed to state to feature only athletes that fall below 15 years because of its strictly organizing committee appealed to state to feature only athletes that fall below 15 years because it is strictly an under 15 competition. On the inspected venues for the competition, Ismaila noted that since Delta had hosted the National Sports Festival 7 months ago, some of the facilities used will be updated to meet the expected standard. In football, Spain defender Jordi Alba will join former Barcelona teammates Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets at Inter Miami, said the club's president George Mas. Mas said the 34-year-old fullback has signed a contract and should be available to face Atlanta on Tuesday. Alba, who left Barcelona in the summer when his contract expired, spent more than 10 years with the Spanish giant, scoring 27 goals in 459 matches. He helped them win 6 La Liga titles and the Champions League in 2015. Argentina World Cup winner Messi, who is 36, and Alba's fellow Spain international Busquets, who is 35, have already made the switch to the United States Major League Soccer team. Inter Miami, 7-time Ballon d'Or winner Messi trained with his Miami teammate for the first time yesterday and is expected to make his debut on Friday in the League Cup game against Cruz Azul of Mexico City. Well, finally, from the transfer scene, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is set to terminate his contract at Chelsea and join Marseille on a free transfer. Aubameyang is close to agreeing a 3-year deal to join the Ligue 1 side. The 34-year-old striker struggled to make an impact at Chelsea, where he made 21 appearances after joining in September 2022, scoring just 3 goals. The move will mark his return to the league after 10 years following his spell at Saint-Etienne between 2011 and 2013. Chelsea have undergone a significant squad upheaval this summer, along with the arrival of coach Mauricio Pochettino. But that's it on sports. My name is Isaac. Over now to Simon Oko for entertainment news.
Thank you, Isaac. Nigerian award-winning superstar Tiwa Savage has revealed her next album would be R&B. When Tiwa Savage broke into Nigerian mainstream in 2012, it was through an R&B sound that showcased her Western influences, dazzled listeners, and prepared her for a run to the top. Tiwa Savage revealed that her next album is going to be fully traditional R&B, as she intends on going back to her first love. While answering questions about the possibility of a new project before her November show in London, Tiwa revealed that she intends to release a couple more singles as she's taking her time to prepare for her next album. The singer is set to perform at the OVO Wembley Arena, where she will be the first female Afrobeat artist to headline the 30,000 capacity arena. Tiwa Savage has enjoyed a great 2023 with her single Stamina ending the first half of the year in Pulse's top 10 songs, while also making strides in her guest appearances on Spyro's hits record Who's Your Guy. She also made history through her performance at King Charles III coronation ceremony. Tiwa last released a project in 2021, which was the Water and Gary EP that delivered the hit single Somebody's Son featuring Brandy. With a return to R&B, listeners can expect her next album to bring back memories of her debut project, Once Upon a Time. Away from that now, international Afrobeat sensation Ira Star has shared that her sophomore album is almost ready. Since breaking into the scene with her eponymous debut EP, Ira Star has established herself as one of the artists taking Afrobeats to a new height through her sensational vocals and captivating appeal. Yesterday, Ira Star took to her Twitter account to reveal that her sophomore album is 80% done. The Maven Stars enjoyed a busy 2023 with the release of her single Stability. She has also impressed on both local and international features, such as her appearance on Tiwa Savage's Stamina and Metro Boomin's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse soundtrack. While her sophomore album doesn't have a date yet, the album would likely have a hit single Rush, which holds the record of being the only single by a female Afrobeat artist to enter the UK singles chart. The sophomore album will be hoping to replicate the success of her debut album 18 and Dangerous, which delivered the hit tracks Bloody Samaritan and Fashion Killer. Moving forward, popular singer Simisola Kosoko, popularly known as Simi, has said that her Bachelor of Arts degree in mass communication is not a waste. Simi bagged the mass communication degree from the prestigious Covenant University, but tossed her certificate aside for the mic. However, Simi has insisted that her degree did not waste despite not using the certificate or being engaged by any media firm. Obviously impressed by how she communicates through her music and social media, Simi took to her Twitter handle to brag, "At least my mass comm degree did not waste." Over the years, a cross-section of Nigerian entertainers who are lawyers, doctors, engineers have come out to say they abandoned their academic qualifications to chase their passion in the entertainment industry. And finally, popular Nigerian comedian Ayodeji Makun, popularly known as AY, believes that he is not one of the funniest comics in the industry. Revealing that he does not see himself in the ranks of the funniest comics, the comedian said one thing he tells people is that if he's left to count the funniest guys in the industry, if you give him the opportunity to name up to 20, he won't put himself. He went on to speak about his failed attempt to reconcile with his industry mates, Basket Mouth and Julius Agu.
And one thing I also tell people, if I am left to count the funniest guys in the industry, if you give me the opportunity to name 1 to 20, I won't even put AY.
You won't even put yourself?
I won't put myself. 1 to 20, I won't put myself. And I want people to also understand that my not putting myself does not mean that somebody is not putting me. where they think I am.
Ah, that's good. Good. That's good. That's good.
And that's it on entertainment news. My name is Simon Okel. Back to you, Francis.
Many thanks, Simon, and that's how far we can go in today's edition. Of course, you can feel our website at spectrumtv.ng. My name is Francis Oyema. Many thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.